a possible meeting between Trump and Putin. The American president says he may soon hold talks with the Kremlin leader. In response, Moscow announced that even the location of the meeting has been agreed upon and that it is just days away. What exactly might be discussed at the talks? What consequences could they have? And is Trump ready to continue imposing sanctions against Russia's allies? TSN correspondent Kateryna Fedorchenko has more details.
The fifth meeting between Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff and the Kremlin dictator turns out to be the most productive yet. News comes from Washington about a possible meeting between Trump and Putin. The U.S. president says such talks could take place soon.
We had very good talks with President Putin, and there is a very good chance that we can wrap up this round, put an end to it. This path is long and continues to remain so. But there is a good chance that a meeting will take place very soon.
Donald Trump informs his allies about his diplomatic achievements, in particular holding talks with the president of Ukraine, which are joined by the German chancellor, the British prime minister, the NATO secretary general, and the president of Finland. Volodymyr Zelensky said that all partners share the same position. The war must be ended.
It seems that Russia is now more inclined toward a ceasefire. The pressure on them is working. But the main thing is that they don't deceive us in the details, neither us nor the United States.
However, European partners are not being invited to negotiations with Putin. After the bilateral meeting with the Kremlin dictator, the United States is planning a trilateral one, this time with the participation of the president of Ukraine. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio reveals what signals have been received from the Kremlin. Apparently, it has finally become clear what Russia might ask for in order to end the war. The American diplomat did not disclose the aggressor country's conditions themselves, but he did complain that arranging a meeting between Trump and Putin is logistically very difficult. CNN reports that the American president is urging his subordinates to organize the talks so that they take place next week or within the coming weeks. In Moscow, they add that, supposedly, the location of the meeting has already even been agreed upon. Meanwhile, American journalists do not forget to ask Trump whether he'll continue to impose higher tariffs on other countries that buy Russian oil. The day before, the U.S. president increased tariffs for India, which trades in fuel purchased from the aggressor country.
We did this with India. We will probably do this with a few other countries. One of them could be China.
Already on Friday, the deadline expires for the ultimatum that Donald Trump gave Moscow to make progress in peace negotiations. Will secondary sanctions be imposed after that? The U.S. Secretary of State emphasized the day before that the decision would be made personally by Trump within the next 24 to 36 hours. Kateryna Fedorchenko, TSN 1+1.
New American tariffs on imports from many countries, including ours, have come into effect. Ukraine was included in the list of countries whose goods are subject to the minimum tariff rate of 10%. Meanwhile, for example, the European Union received a 15% tariff rate, just like Japan and South Korea. Imports from Taiwan, Vietnam, and Bangladesh will face 20% tariffs. For Switzerland, Donald Trump set tariffs at 39%, while for Syria, Laos, and Burma, the rate is 40%. Some of the highest tariffs will apply to India. Recently, the U.S. president imposed additional duties on New Delhi for refusing to stop buying Russian oil. The overall tariff for Indian goods will be around 50%. Journalists have calculated that import taxes in the U.S. have reached their highest level in 100 years. However, it will be American consumers who have to pay for this. According to the findings of Yale University's Budget Lab, imported goods will now cost them a significant 18% more than before. Not a breakthrough, but more productive than expected. That's how the U.S. president described the talks with the Kremlin that took place the day before. Donald Trump made a previously announced statement in the Oval Office and said that he might meet with Putin soon. According to Fox News, this was requested by the Russian side. And then, a possible trilateral meeting with the presidents of Russia and Ukraine could take place. These statements were preceded by a 3-hour conversation between the U.S. president's special representative Steve Witkoff and the Kremlin leader in Moscow, as well as phone talks between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky, which, according to media reports, were also joined by the German chancellor, the British prime minister, the NATO secretary general, and the president of Finland. The president of Ukraine said that all partners share the same position. The war must be ended.
It seems that Russia is now more inclined toward a ceasefire. The pressure on them is working. But the main thing is that they don't deceive us in the details. Neither us nor the United States.
New American tariffs on imports from many countries, including ours, have come into effect. Ukraine was included in the list of countries whose tariffs are set at the minimum rate of 10%. Meanwhile, for example, the European Union received a 15% tariff rate, just like Japan and South Korea. Imports from Taiwan, Vietnam, and Bangladesh will face 20% tariffs. For Switzerland, Donald Trump set tariffs at 39%, and for Syria, Laos, and Burma, 40%. Some of the highest tariffs will apply to India. This comes after the US president imposed additional tariffs on New Delhi the day before, due to its refusal to stop buying Russian oil. The overall tariff on Indian goods will be about 50%. Journalists have calculated that import taxes in the US have reached their highest level in 100 years. However, it is American consumers who will have to pay for this. According to the findings from Yale University's esteemed budget lab, it is projected that imported goods will subsequently cost them a significant 18% more.
The United States has approved the sale of services to Ukraine for the repair of M777 howitzers. The total value of the package is $203.5 million. The U.S. State Department reported that the first part of the contract includes the sale of military equipment to Ukraine, repair services, and support for the howitzers and related equipment. The second contract, worth $99.5 million, provides for transportation and logistics services. The main contractor will be selected from among the approved U.S. suppliers. As clarified in Washington, this agreement will contribute to achieving the foreign policy and national security goals of the United States by enhancing the security of the partner country, since it is a driving force for political stability and economic progress in Europe. Ethiopia has refused Russia's request to lease passenger planes. The national carrier stated directly, no agreement was reached because Moscow is under sanctions. The supply of new aircraft to the aggressor country was restricted after the full-scale invasion. Russians have also faced difficulties repairing the aircraft they already have. As a result, there have already been several dangerous incidents during passenger flights in the aggressor country. To ease the situation, Moscow turned to negotiations with the Ethiopian authorities. They wanted to lease not only planes from them, but also crews and a range of services, including maintenance. Earlier, the media remind us Russia had unsuccessfully made similar offers to Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, and Qatar. In Ethiopia, the press notes, most of the planes are leased, so they would have had to get permission from the owners. However, Moscow has already been refused, with the explanation that sanctions are in place and that they themselves lack enough planes for their own needs.